Well, boys, I'm here in my garage. You guys know that guy on YouTube, right? Anyways, that's not what I'm here to show with you guys. Or share with you guys. Man, I've been slammed, and that's an understatement. Last couple weeks, I've been wanting to do this video. Auto, 6-speed. I've been very fortunate to have this opportunity. We got a torque monster and something that's pretty low on torque, You can't say much. I mean, the gearbox so closely ratioed, and this thing just does not produce the torque that this thing does. So, we got the world. We got quite the world of best of both worlds. When I drove this car, when I owned this car and never owned a car like this, I thought this thing handles well. Well, after driving this for a few days, get into this thing, and it's like, dude, does this thing even steer? Like, it's horrible. This thing steers horribly. This thing steers like it's on track. So, and I mean, you're going to say, Paul, don't get all confused, buddy. I'm not. I'm just saying, that's why I'm saying what I'm saying is I'm very fortunate to be able to own both vehicles. There's a sad story behind this vehicle. I don't know when I'll be able to share it, if I'll ever share it. But know that if you feel a little bit of emotion towards this vehicle in a sad way, there's a story behind it that I have to keep to myself. It's personal. As far as this vehicle goes, I mean, I've owned this thing going on 6th year. I could not be happier. Sorry, guys, it is filthy. This car is filthy, as you can tell. That's the water that's running off of it. Well, I guess on the camera it's not too bad, but whatever, man. I've owned this thing for 6 months and, 6 months. 6 years, going on 6 years. Put on 60,000 miles, rounded off. Besides me breaking it, and what I mean I broke it, is I destroyed the rear end and dropped it. I don't know if I ever shared that story with you. I was changing the back tires and the jack fell and this thing just fell and them fins hit the concrete. I don't know if you guys know much about the bearings, pretty much knocked the oil out of the bearings, and then as soon as I started up and drove it out of the shop, and I started hearing a howl, or a tight little high-end pitch, and then it became into a howl, and then I had to change out the rear end. But that's about it as far as issues. Oh, this strut did go out, but that's stuff I expect. But what I'm more focused on here for 650 horse, 700 plus torque, this is a problem-free car. I mean, it really is for what I've been dealing with, but that's not the point of the video. The point of this video is how greatly different these two vehicles are, or different, and how greatly they differ between each other. Back to the story of running this thing, I had the I had the privilege of rolling drag race, rolling races, dig drag racing, meaning, quarter mile. The rolling and the digs were both quarter mile, but the rolling, I think I came in at 45-50, and then I took off, and then on the dig, it's a dead stop. You get a green light, you go. You get timed by end of the track, quarter mile. This video is mostly going to be focused on this vehicle, how they two stack up, and what I wanted to underline is how they greatly differ, and how fortunate I am to own both vehicles. Until you lose something, you don't know what you have. That kind of mentality, that kind of mindset, if you keep that in mind, if you think this is great and then you get in this, yeah, in certain areas this still stays great, but then this thing embarrasses this thing, and it's like, like handling. I thought this thing handled fine until I drive this. I drove the Ford and I'm like, what the heck? What just happened? Because I'd get off of this car and mob it a little bit on this car, and I'm like, dude, churn, and it's horrible handling. This thing has very closely geared transmission. The transmission is very closely geared, but it's a pile of, when it comes to torque, it just doesn't have it. Not what the engine was intended for. Where this thing is just a torque monster. I have not driven a more torqueier car than this car. This thing is just a monster on low end. And then high end, I went up against guys with 650 and 750 horse on a roll, and the guy with 750, he wasn't running that great. Something happened in his car. But we went out to Mexico, and did some highway pulls. This car really kept its own. It impressed everybody. It's freaking 100 degrees outside. What these boys aren't realizing, the guy with 650 and the other guy with 750, they're identical cars. Both of them are supercharged. They're heat soaking, where I know what heat soak is with this car. This car is just cooling off. The harder you mob it, the cooler temps you pretty much get in the intake. Well, yeah. You sit and idle it, they go through the roof as well. I was able to hook up my little OBD2 and watch the intake temps on this, and it was great, you know. So what blew me away the most is the fact that, you know, people get comfortable with something, like myself with this car. As I said, 6 years with it. It's a great car, all around, well balanced car. And you jump into something completely different, and you're like, holy smokes. Well, there's a lot that could be had in a car like this, and in this car, there's a lot that could be had in a car like this too. And I know this is not a straight line car. You know, I had the privilege of taking it out on a circuit, and I was blown away by the way it can handle and all that great stuff. You know, I heard the term of Porsche, man. You know, what is it? RS3 or GT3? Yeah, GT3, the Porsches. Yeah, it's a Porsche, man, because I tried to chase one of those down on the track. Didn't go very well, you know. In the turns, I'm still rear-wheel driving. He's all-wheel drive, you know. He goes at that turn and punches it throughout the whole turn, and he's holding for his dear life, where I'm just like, yeah, I got to take it easy on the throttle, because I'm going to go propeller style out of that turn if I give it any more. So I wasn't driving it that hard, but I didn't leave too much on the table either. So, I pushed it a few laps and got a good feel for it. And, yeah, so does it stack up to the Porsche GT3? No, not really. You know, straight line, nope. Turns, nope. You could say, Paul, don't be a fool and compare those two cars. But, I heard them all the time. But for the Porsches, what are they? Mid 200s, higher? No, they're about 275. Let's put a tag on it. 275 Porsches, and these things are 75s. Dude, this thing holds its own for 75. You know, once you get money involved. So I don't want to jump to conclusion, but I guess I started saying for 70 or 65, actually, to be specific. You know, 65 grand. There's a lot to be had in a car like this. You know, guys, you gotta know that I've owned a Mercedes. I'm not the Mercedes factor, the AMG, you know, V8 compressor factor. You know, I'm very happy with this car, and I'm very practical, luxury, you know, one package type of guy. One size I know does not fit at all, but the closest I could get it to fulfill my needs, should we say. This car's been very good to me, and then from me to always bash on Fords and buy a Ford is quite the blow. And people are like, what the heck happened to Paul, you know? Did a little bit of research, like these Fords, and went ahead and pulled the gun on one of them. Pulled the trigger on the gun, not the gun. But, this car hasn't been driven much in the last week. It hasn't been driven much at all. It still smells brand new because it is brand new. That's what you get. Well, I gotta get some fuel. It's a very small tank. Anyways, what I wanted to show you has 2,756 miles. It's a great little car. I miss driving this thing. So, since this video is more focused on this car, I had the opportunity and the privilege to drive this thing back to back on a few days and run errands on it, man. The look that you get, man, we gotta talk about that. The look that you get on this car is crazy. My buddy had a Lambo, a yellow Lambo. Okay, I don't think it gets any brighter than that or catchier. This thing's something like that, you know. Like, it was crazy. As much attention as this thing got or gets, it is crazy. It's right there with the exotics, you know. You know, my buddy pulls up on his, let's say, Caddy. He has a CTSV Caddy, and thing sounds mean, you know, has a minor lope to him. You know, LSs are, you know, his is straight pipe, you know. He has a mild build. By the way, we're a heck of a race, but I'll talk about that later in another video. Just wanted to put in perspective where that CTSV stands on a global thing, you know, global market, global picture. So that car outruns this car But when we pull up, nobody looks at that CTSV, and I'm not saying 100%, I'm just saying majority just come up and they start going around and around this car. It's just, this thing's so mean looking. Something I wanted to start talking about, and I keep sidetracking when I said I had the opportunity of driving this thing every day. Not every day, a few days in a row. That was my daily. Well, I don't know if you call it a daily, but let's just keep it at, I got the opportunity to drive a few days in a row. And what are some key points that I've noticed is it's a great, awesome thing about it, and what are some downers? You know, for a two-door car, and as lazy as I become, you know, driving autos, I drive that truck daily, you know, once in a blue moon, and it's cold outside. I was driving the Ford type of deal with this thing. As I was saying, when I went to the drag strip with this thing, my biggest concern was grinding gears and getting my timing down, but not one race, not one gear was grinded, and I was very happy with that. So, lazy guy drives a Mercedes, gets in a Mustang. What all do you think he's going to complain about? Not a whole lot, besides the seats. I know, I'm complaining about the seats. I have not been given the privilege of driving any better seats than that as far as keeping you in place. Like when I went on the track, no complaints at all, just phenomenal seats. But for every day, they got to me. I hated them. Hey Joe. Sorry guys, my neighbor just popped out of nowhere. Anyways, about those seats. For every day, they're just, in my books, they're a pain in the neck. I mean, keep in mind, I view this car as a great daily driver. I mean, it gets the attention as an exotic, but I don't view it as an exotic. You know, for these seats, I'm just trying to make sure you guys aren't going to blow up on me and be like, Paul, what the heck do you want? They're Recaros. But as far as being a daily, that's what I'm underlining here. As far as being a daily, it got to me, it got to me pretty solidly. Like, I didn't hate the thing, but I hated them. Did not prevent me from driving this car. Did not prevent me from getting in there and skipping like, oh, I only need to do a 5-minute drive. I'm going to drive something else. No, nothing like that. It just gets annoying. That's it. I have to pick on something, and that's what I'm picking on. The seat catches you, and it's annoying. That's it, guys. There's nothing else as far as a daily around town. Now, if you're talking about, something that you could go on the highway with, absolutely. I knew this was coming, but it's absolutely annoying. The reason I knew it was coming because I saw the size that the front end tires have. This thing grabs the ruts like crazy, and it just throws you around. Not very friendly when it comes to that kind of stuff. But those are the two things I could, complain about. Only two things I could find to complain about. No, we still haven't put a little piece of plastic here to serve as a little protector. But anyways, man, so got that daily thing out of the way. Let's talk about overall, how does it do as far as a high performance vehicle. I can't even call it a high performance. Let's just call it a mild performance vehicle. Let's talk speed. Well, let's talk about acceleration and speed. How does it do speed? Yeah, it's a big issue. There's guys out there that can build a Civic. It could go get up to speed, but you might want to grab your parachute and make sure you have a good life insurance. This thing, as far as accelerating, as I said, low end is crap. Absolutely. Why? Because I've been spoiled with this thing. Mid, nah. High end, superb. Just pulls. Just pulls and pulls and pulls. For 526, it's geared very well, and it will outrun most 526 horsepower cars because, you're talking 526 at the flywheel. A lot of guys aren't realizing, your drivetrain loss. They're averaging, 10%, 8%, 12%. Bullcrap. Certain manufacturers get it down, certain don't. Like this car, very close gear ratio transmission, so that's perfect for a vehicle like this that likes to scream and run on high end. Then the rear diff is alright, so the way this car is set up, it holds its own. And those guys running 650 horse, if they miss a beat, it takes them a while to catch up and pass me. And the higher the horsepower, it's always like that. But guys, I own a 650 horse, roughly. So, you guys got to realize that the line's being drawn here where it's like, this will perform and hang with 550 to 575 any day setups. So, as far as acceleration, there you have it. You know, what ballpark can you battle with? What am I going to improve on it? I still don't know. There's a story to it that I'm keeping to myself, and we'll see how that one goes. But we'll see. Time will show what I'm going to throw on it, if I'll throw anything on it, if I'll even have it. Now, as far as handling the speed, I'm talking about high speeds. This thing is just flawless, okay? It's just, I couldn't ask for more. I'm being honest with you. You know, I went with some high speed runs on this thing, and it never was an issue, you know, as far as taking off. You know, like this car does really well on high speeds, but that's straight line high speeds. This car, I feel fine, you know, gauging the turns, but with bends and turns, I'll take it on with this one. Obviously, not all of them. But I hope you guys are understanding. Slight bends and turns, high speeds, I'm fine with this. And this, I'm like, ain't happening. I'm backing off. I don't want to do no high speed, even bends with this thing. Curves, whatever you want to call them. So as far as speed, handling the speed, like I said about that Civic, you can boost the Civic and get it up to speed, but grab your parachute and make sure you have a good life insurance. But yeah, that's about it, you know. A little small review from my experience since I've talked about it and told you how fortunate I was. In conclusion, I'd like to add a little what makes these things so far opposite. Well, clearly you got a 6-speed and auto, you got a 2-door, 4-door, we get the obvious. But, you know, handling, hands down, this thing just freaking runs circles around this car. You know, launching these two cars, this thing you got to be really careful off the line because it's too much torque. This thing, not enough torque off the line. Mid is really, it's on the weak side. I can't give it a thumbs down on mid, but it's not far off of that. High end, perfect. Now as far as drivability, you know, you're gonna say, oh, this thing's a 4-door, it's gonna win. No, it's how it handles the road, you know. Like I could kick back and relax and not sweat it in the Mercedes. This thing, you always gotta watch it. It'll grab it'll throw you around. This thing will toss you around, and it's annoying, but it's part of the package, you know. When I saw those front tires, I'm like, well, here it comes, you know. I knew what I was getting into. Is the end of the world? No, but you're driving 3 and 9 o'clock position, hand position all day, and you're keeping that steering wheel firm. Where this guy is just like, you know, you're chilling. If you're in comfort suspension, comfort tranny, and you're chilling there, that wheel ain't going anywhere. Well, this thing, it could pull left, right, real easy, real hard, and doesn't really take much. And keep in mind, this thing's 100% stock. I haven't done anything to it. So those are the two things, and I just can't be thankful enough for the opportunity that I've had to own and drive these two. It's just never foresaw or thought they would be so far apart. You know, this thing's a Autobahn and King or whatever they call it. This is just a 2-door sports car, but there's more to it. Once you get to experience it, like I have, circuit, drag, you know, highway pulls, and off the line, on the roll, all kinds of rolls, and, you know, I've done it all with this car too. But, just a privilege, guys, just a blast. Anyways, that's it for the story. My little video that I wanted to make. I've been wanting to make it for a while, but business has kept me running some 12, 14, some days 16-hour days, so I think I'm slowing down, but every time I say that, something happens, so I'll do my best, guys. I'll do the videos. You'll see them come in my best ability, and we'll go from there. I'm not like your typical YouTuber that's like, oh, YouTube, but I'd like to see some feedback. You know, subscriptions or thumbs up, likes, dislikes, and I'm all honesty. I don't mind if you give me if this is a stupid video, give me a dislike so I know where I'm headed with this. You know, I'll give it more efforts, and if I'm getting a lot of dislikes, well, I'll quit wasting your time and quit making these videos. And if you like it, give me a thumbs up, and you want to hear more about these cars, well, subscribe, and I'm just watching it, you know, at this point. Got a whole lot of no subscribers. Well, barely any, but for those guys that have subscribed, hugely positively appreciate it, and thank you for all the positive support. You know, it's tough. Anyways, all you boys behave, and as always, have a mighty fine day.